Welcome to the first session in a series for this class, Get Found on Google, 4 strategies to get your church on the first page of Google search results. And when we say church, we also mean other organizations, and we know we've got a lot of folks out here from different backgrounds, whether it's a nonprofit or what have you. We know that you're trying to get on the first page of Google, and I think that this this series will really help you. My name is Marty Hartman. I've been working with Marshall Shannon on ministry design training as sort of a part-time consultant to get Marshall some help, and he's been after me for a while to get some marketing tips and help for folks that are part of the ministry design training family. And this is the first training in a series. So this first part, we're going to talk about SEO basics, and we're going to keep this pretty much pretty simple. We're not going to go deep into SEO. This is the type of subject that you could spend an entire career on researching, testing all the finer points of SEO, which is search engine optimization. But in this training, we are going to be keeping things on a pretty basic level. We're not going to talk about coding or things like that. So as I mentioned in some of our marketing materials, if you can follow a recipe, I think that you'll be able to follow along with this. But I do think the results for your site and your church or your organization can be tremendous. So let's get started. So SEO and internet marketing, and these terms get bandied about, and people often wonder exactly what they mean. So let's go back to the word marketing. And if you look at the definition for marketing, it's the action of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. So that sounds good. What does that really mean? What does market research mean? And that is finding the correct match between a product or service and the people that need it. So when you talk about marketing, you're talking about trying to promote a product or service, and market research is all about getting that product or service to the right people. And to do that, you have to be relevant. And what I tell people when you talk about marketing, if you would just insert the word relevant or relevance instead of marketing. So if you hear somebody in your church say, we need to do more marketing, when you talk about any type of marketing or conversation between a group that has a product or service and the group that needs it, you have to use the correct avenues in order to find those people. So if you think about this in terms of things that you buy every day, it makes sense. When you need to buy groceries, you go to a grocery store. So when you're in the grocery store, now it's not likely that you're going to see advertisements for a new car or have a vehicle there like you would see in a car showroom, because people are not there to buy cars, they're there to buy groceries. So you have groceries and grocery related items, and there's all types of marketing that goes and takes place in a grocery store, from label design and things like that. But when it comes to advertising, you also have to be relevant. So for example, if you were to look at a magazine like Field and Stream, it's not likely that the advertisers in Field and Stream would have anything to do with women's high heel shoes, for example. It's not appropriate. It's not relevant. It has nothing to do with the subject that we're talking about. So whenever you're talking about marketing, you need to be thinking about how your product or service can best fit with the people that need it and how you can get to those people. And that's what being relevant is all about. So at one time, it used to be that newspapers were relevant. Every city had a newspaper, every town, and there are still newspapers around. But if when the internet came along and people could get their information for free on their computer and then later on their smartphone and now on their iPad or what have you, why would you pay money for a piece of paper that comes and to your door and you have to get it before it gets rained on or find it in the bushes if you have a paper boy, which I don't even know. Are there paper boys anymore? I don't know. Or you'd have to go down to the supermarket or the newsstand to buy your newspaper. It became less and less relevant. And you can see newspaper circulation changes have been plummeting. So at one time, if you wanted to reach your community, all you had to do was put an ad in the paper. Well, nobody's reading the paper anymore. So that's no longer a viable option. And at one time, the phone book was relevant. Everybody had a phone book, and you needed to look up a number. You needed to find a plumber, an electrician, a dry cleaner. You looked it up in the phone book. But if you are in any group and just try this yourself and ask everybody in the group, when was the last time you used a phone book? And you'll find it's a very interesting response. Now, I'm not saying nobody uses a phone book. You find that as a demographic group, that definitely older citizens, senior citizens use phone books. And if you have a specific product or service for that group, then maybe a phone book is the correct way to go. But we can see that the page references, and that means the number of people that are paying for advertising in phone books, has been dropping quite dramatically because it just doesn't pay anymore. And if you have noticed, I still get a phone book every year. They come and drop one by at my house. I've noticed the phone book is getting smaller and smaller because fewer and fewer advertisers are putting their information in it. So the phone book is no longer relevant. At one time, if you had a business or an organization and you wanted to be relevant to your community, you put in a yellow page ad. That's not the case anymore. So what do you do when you want to find a phone number? What do you do? 67% of people in this survey buy Leap Clicks, and I will say this, Leap Clicks is an online organization. So this survey was online. It may be a bit skewed, but I think it holds up pretty well. 60% of the people responding to the survey never use the phone book. That's over 2/3. And 90% of the people surveyed said they look up businesses and organizations online. So if you're going to look up a business or an organization online, exactly where do you go to look them up? The answer for most people would be Google. And if you're saying Google is where you'd go, you're not alone. About 1 billion users worldwide. That's quite a few. And 90% of searches, according to StarCrunch, that means that of everybody that's using a search engine online, 9 of 10 of them are using Google. So this chart is just a few years old, but you can show that Google by far has a much wider acceptance as far as the search engines. And we're going to be talking primarily about strategies to be found on Google. But I just want to let you know, in case you're a Yahoo user or a Bing user, the things that we're going to be talking about that you can do for your church organization. They will work just as well for Yahoo and Bing. Now, I do want to show you something that's very interesting, something to think about. Look at the searches for mobile users. Now, Google's got about 98% of the mobile users. And with the prevalence of smartphones, it seems like everybody has a smartphone in their pocket now, and they are searching for things right from the convenience of their phone device or their handheld. Being able to be found by that means is also important and something for you to think about. So why is Google so big? And the reason is they give the user what they want. So you have to think about Google's whole business proposition. Google wants to give you a free service. They want to help you find what it is you're looking for on the web. And they don't charge you anything for it. Now, if you look at a Google page, you'll notice there's a lot of advertisers on that page trying to find people that are interested in their products or services. And they're paying big bucks. They're paying per click for somebody to click on the ad that shows up in the Google search. So Google's whole reason for existing is to give you the best possible results that they can. And sometimes when you're doing a search, it's amazing. It's almost like Google is reading your mind. They will make suggestions for you. And going back to that term that we used, the reason that people use Google is because Google is appropriate to the task at hand. It's relevant. And that's the meaning of the word relevant, if I can say that. It's closely connected or appropriate to the matter at hand. And when you are using Google on a handheld device, it literally is at hand. It's right at your fingertips to find exactly what it is that you're looking for. And that's the reason that Google is so big. They're giving people what they want. And Google's going to continue to figure out ways to figure out what it is that you want so that they can give it to you. So, use Google. That's how we become relevant, by using Google to reach my audience. That's how you're going to be able to get to the people that you're trying to communicate with. So we're going to use Google, but you and everybody else wants to use Google. This is a chart that's somewhat interesting, and you'll notice that on the left the numbers increase by multiples of 10. These are the number of web hosts in the world, and you can see, let's see, we're 10 million. It looks like a billion web hosts. Now, a web host is a company that is actually hosting. It's a company or a computer that's hosting a website. Now, some computers may be hosting multiple websites. If you have a web hosting company that you work with, likely they are hosting dozens, hundreds, or thousands of websites. And you can see the growth of the number of web hosts. 1 billion web hosting services. Pretty amazing. That's a lot of growth in that curve, and it's going up and up. So everybody's using out there. There's billions of hosts and millions of websites. Billions of websites, I should say. Get my digits in the right place. And all of them want to get on that first page of Google results. There are over 2 trillion, getting all these big numbers, over 2 trillion searches per year on Google. About 6 billion searches per day. That's a lot. And over 90% of the people that are searching don't go beyond the first page of search results. And if you think about your own experience, that's probably holding up to be true. Now, perhaps if you're looking for something that's very hard to explain or something that's relatively new, you may find yourself going to multiple pages of search results. But by and large, Google has spent countless millions of dollars in research and hired thousands of people to figure out what it is that they can do to make sure that when they give you a page with results on it, that's what you were looking for. And for the most part it is. But you've got all these people out there that have sites that want to get on this first page, so you have a lot of competition. Let's take a look for just a moment at what it is, the anatomy of the search results page. And these are showing the types of searches. And we'll go to a live one in just a moment. But you'll usually in that top portion, the part that's in red that says paid results, those are ads that advertisers have paid for. Now, this may be really basic for some of you folks, but I was talking to a gentleman who's an insurance agent, a very intelligent man. He's been selling a lot of insurance, used Google for years and years, did not realize that the results at the top of the page were actually paid ads. It was very interesting. And also the results on the side of the page are paid ads. Then there are organic results. And organic means that Google figures out what should be going in that area. And then you have what are called the local results. Local results, and we'll demonstrate this in just a moment, but Google is looking at what you're searching for and trying to figure out, is this a broad search, just a general interest subject, or is this something that you're looking for somebody in a local area to provide a service? So let me just flip on over. And I'll just head on over here to Chrome. So here we are on our good old Google page. We're going to do a local search. So I'm going to search for something here, a general topic, electricity. So if I'm doing a search for electricity, that's a general topic. So there's going to be news for electricity, and these are what are called organic searches. Now you'll notice there's no ads on this particular page because the people who advertise services know that electricity is probably not, if somebody's searching for electricity, they're searching for a general topic that's not necessarily related to a service or product. So you see a lot of pictures, very interesting stuff. But if we change our search to electrician, everything changes. So with electrician, you notice we have a lot of ads right here and on the side, and we also have our local search. Now these local search, these are not paid positions. And we're going to be talking about that later on in one of our sessions in local, using Google Local to be able to be found on the first page. But you can see Google is trying to give you the best possible relevant result based on the type of search that you're making. So let's head on back over here. So those are the main types of search: paid, organic, local, and those are the things that we're going to be talking about in our later sessions. So how does Google decide, especially in the organic search, we're going back to that example of electricity, how does Google decide which pages should show up on that first search result page? Because of all of the millions and millions of websites, which ones are the best? Well, the answer is nobody knows for sure. It's a well-guarded secret what their Google's algorithm is, and they talk. Everybody talks about the algorithm, but the fact of the matter is nobody really knows exactly how Google decides. But we do have a lot of clues based on experience with people trying a lot of different things, and generally this is how Google decides. One of the things is PageRank. So PageRank, what that means is how big your website is. So let's say that you started a website today. You went to WordPress.com and put a WordPress, you're going to start a blog, and you made one post, and it was basically, hello world, this is me, I'm starting a blog. You have basically one page on your site. Nobody's linking to it, nobody's heard of you, so you basically have a page rank of 0. If you want to compare that, let's say, with Amazon. Amazon has millions of web pages. They have millions of links going to those web pages. So when you combine those two together, the number of pages and pages linking. So how many pages a site has is important, like in the Amazon example. And how many other sites link to that site. And Amazon has millions of links coming in. So they would be a very large, they would have a higher page rank. So these are some things for you to think about. Later on we'll show you some strategies that you can use, how to increase your page rank. And another way that Google decides on what's on that search page is the actual word that you're using. And the search term match is actually called a keyword. And you may have heard keywords and wondered what is a keyword. And basically what a keyword is what somebody types into the search box on Google. Now those words will then be matched to words that happen to appear on your site. And how many keywords that match that are found on your site, or keyword density, will have a big impact on whether or not your page shows up. And also where in the site the keywords are found. So if you have a specific search term or keyword that you want to rank for, and when we say rank we mean that you appear on that first page of Google, then using that keyword in your website will help. And where it appears in your website will help. And that's basically what search engine optimization is all about. There's two parts of search engine optimization. On page means these are keywords that you place on your website and on your pages, in your domain, in your URL. And off-page SEO, and we'll talk a little bit more about these. So off-page SEO. And that means these are websites that are linking to your page. So the page rank of sites linking to yours is important. If you get a link from, I'll go back to Amazon. If there was a link on Amazon coming back to your site, then that would be a lot more powerful, if you want to use that term, than a link from your cousin Fred who has a blog. Cousin Fred, his blog is maybe a 0 or a 1, and I'm not even sure what Amazon is. It's very high. But that link from Amazon is worth much more. So having links from valuable pages to your site, and these are called backlinks. Backlinks to your site is going to be very powerful to help you rise up in your page rank. The reputation of sites linking to yours is very important. Google actually keeps track of people that are trying to figure out a way to figure out the system, if you want to call it that. They're trying to figure out how things work and develop a system that'll get pages ranked up. So you'll see a lot of people, they call this black hat SEO as opposed to white hat meaning good guys, black hat meaning bad guys. A lot of people will have what are called link farms. They will build websites that nobody actually wants to use, that are filled with lots of nonsense copy that really doesn't have a lot of use, except that it may have a lot of keywords in it, with the hope that these links going to other sites will increase page rank for the target. So people will actually pay these link farms to give links to their website. Not a good idea, because Google actually looks at that. They look at the quality of the pages. So it's a good idea when you are putting together communications on your pages. Always have quality in mind. And going back to what we talked about, relevance, you want to have a target audience in mind, and you want everything that you write and put on your web pages to be relevant and quality, so that you're going to not be put in the bad reputation category, for one. Also, you don't want to go out and buy links from link farms to link to your site, because you can actually receive negative links from these places. Now, also another way of looking at off-page SEO, and we're talking about keywords here, the anchor text on the links coming to you. So if, let's say somebody's doing a search for electrician, like we talked about, and there may be a review site like Yelp or something, and they have a backlink to you as an electrician, and the backlink, it's not just your website, the address, but it also has what's called an anchor text. And you've probably seen this when you're reading an article. There may be a link right in the middle of the article that refers to a specific term, and it's in blue, so you know it's a link. That is called anchor text. If that anchor text is the key word in question, then that will make your site more relevant, because you have a keyword anchor text go into your site. So now we're going to switch over to on-page SEO. These are things that you can do with keywords on your page, your website, to help increase your possibility of ranking for keywords. The location affects quality tremendously as far as where these keywords appear on your site. To give you an example, probably the most important place as far as keywords would be a domain. And that would be, I just chose Mayberry because of Andy Griffith's show. I don't know if there's a Mayberry and if there's a church in Mayberry, but if somebody were going to be looking, say they were visiting Mayberry and they wanted to find a church, they may type into Google Mayberry Church. Well, you see right here, that keyword Mayberry Church would be right here in the domain. So when you realize that every page that's going to be listed on the site has that keyword in it, that's a huge, huge advantage for that particular keyword, Mayberry Church. Now also the URL or the address. Let's say Mayberry Church, that domain was not available. They decided to go with the letters MFBC for Mayberry First Baptist Church.org. So they got that. So there's no keyword in that domain. MFBC is not a keyword. It's just a bunch of letters. But if they have pages in their site that have Mayberry-Church as the address, then Mayberry-Church actually contains the keyword in question of Mayberry Church. So that would work. If Mayberry Church appeared in a page title, that would also be helpful. And as we go through here, H1 tags, those are when you're looking at a page and you see, say, a heading or a headline. H1 tags are assignments using different software. If you're using WordPress or some of these, or just any page layout software for web pages, you can assign hierarchy tags. H1 stands for hierarchy. That means that's a higher hierarchy than an H2 or whatever. It goes H2, H3 on down. So these are tags, these are headlines that you really want to stand out. So if the keyword is in that heading, then that's going to have some weight. And then you also have paragraph and copy throughout the text of your website. Now, there are other places that you can have keywords, and we'll cover those in one of our later sessions, talking about how you can help your website to gain some page rank. But that's the main hierarchy. Now, this is one of the things I've stressed to people, that I've been asked, how do I get keywords in my website? And the answer is, if you have a website and it has words, you already have keywords. So let's just give an example here. We're going to hop on over to Chrome, and let's just type in a word. We're going to type in the. Pretty basic word. So we have about, let's see, that's million, billion, 8 trillion websites that have the word the on it. So the is a keyword. It's just not a very good keyword. If you have a website and you use the word the, you would be part of that 8 trillion websites. So keywords are of all different kinds of quality. So if you have a website and you have words, you do already have keywords. But you can see in this example, most of the people that are ranking, and I think this is funny, the people that are ranking for this, we've got Twitter in here, The Economist, The Onion, The Atlantic. These are mostly the names of the organization, and sometimes the keyword is actually in the domain, which I think is very interesting, even though we would never, excuse me about that, we would never be going after that keyword, the. We'd want to have something much more appropriate. So let's get back here to our presentation. So when it comes to keywords, obviously popular websites that have a higher page rank than you are going to be ranking much higher in Google. So when it comes to specific keywords that you want to appear on the first page of Google for, you have to choose your battles. And let's give an example. Let's say you went into a very large arena, and this arena has hundreds of boxing rings set up in it, and you want to win some boxing matches, and you have the choice. You can get into any one of these rings with anybody you can choose. You could, for example, you could go against Muhammad Ali at the height of his ability. Here he is in the Thrilla in Manila when that was what, 1974, I believe. You could go against Muhammad Ali, the World Heavyweight Championship, at the height of his ability. Or you could choose a 98-year-old senior citizen that can barely lift his arms. If you want to win a boxing match, who are you going to go against? Now, if you were really good and trained at it and thought you were ready for the heavyweight championship, you might want to go against Muhammad Ali. Most of us would probably, if we were looking to win, we would go against the 98-year-old senior citizen. So I say that to let you know, when it comes to choosing a keyword, you want to choose your battles wisely. There are going to be some keywords that you are just never going to be able to rank for, because that particular keyword will trigger a search that's not local, but you're going to be going against websites that have a very high page rank and also have lots and lots of backlinks to them, thousands of backlinks, and it's just not going to be possible to be able to win in that situation. Now, later on in one of the sessions, we're going to show you how you can take one of those giant heavyweight championships, YouTube, use it to your advantage to be found in Google searches. So when you select keywords that you are wanting to use in your church organization to be able to be found on Google, and when I say selecting keywords, I'm not meaning that you want to just use that word repeated over and over again. Maybe one of the pages in your website is you just take the word church and you repeat it 500 times. That's not going to work. Google is smarter than that. They know that you're doing keyword spamming. So when I say selecting keywords, I mean these are keywords that you are mindful about, so that you may be able to use them, say, in headlines or in an introductory paragraph in an article. Or if you're just starting out, you may want to think about keywords in a domain for your church. So the thing you need to think about, like the example of Muhammad Ali, you want to think about the competition. There are some keywords that you will never rank for, but there are others to think about that you may be much more able to be competitive. And those would be what we call long tail keywords. So I'll give you an example of a long tail keyword. Let's flip on over here again. Back here in Google. And this is, I'm going to just show here search tools. I'm right here in Taylor, South Carolina. And your location is going to determine much of what you see, and we can show that in a moment here. So let's say I do a search for church. I'm in Taylor, South Carolina, so it's going to pull up a local search, and there you see there's some local churches right there. So you see these are some organic. This is an organic link. And you can see this is an organic link. That means these are local churches, and these are pages right from their website that are mentioned right here. Now we don't see, and this is interesting to me, there's no ads on this particular search. What that tells me is that nobody is advertising for this keyword church in my area, or at least not advertising a lot. That's going to be something that we can talk about in one of our later sessions in using AdWords to appear on local searches. So in this particular area, there may not be a lot of churches. And now let's say Baptist Church. Baptist Church. We type that. Now you can see it's a little bit different search. We have more local, because Google knows if I'm looking for Baptist Church, it's likely that I'm looking for a place to go to church on Sunday. They just know that I'm looking for a local place, but we still have some organic links here. So these are coming right from websites. Still interesting to me. No results there. Now if we type in Greenville. So you can see here I'm typing more and more things in this descriptive term, and you can see that it's changing the results again. So we had 3 searches: church, Baptist Church, and Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina. When we talk about a long tail keyword, this is what we're talking about. This is a long tail keyword, meaning it's not just one word or 2 words, it's a complete phrase. It's a very descriptive phrase. Now we can show you later, and we'll be talking about this, how to find out how many keywords the people are actually searching. For example, Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina has a lot fewer people searching for that phrase than just the term church. So when I talk about long tail keywords, that can give you an edge over in finding ways that you can win in particular searches. Now you need to think about this in your own situation. If you are in an area of the country that has very few Baptist churches, this would be an easy thing to rank for in a Google search. If you are in part of the country that has a large number of Baptist churches, that's going to be a little tougher to rank for because you have a lot more competition, more people trying to get on that first page. So when you are looking at long tail keywords, and we'll head on back over to the presentation here. Let me get back here, and there we go. When we're looking at long tail keywords, you are focusing on using specific phrases in your either domain, in your titles, in your URL that have that longer phrase in them with the hopes that in that fight, even though you're not going to have as many people looking, it's a fight that you can win. So long tail keywords is something to keep in mind of words that you can focus on, or phrases. And also, as we showed, when selecting keywords, there is the local edge. By using your location, as we showed you in that example with search for Baptist churches in Greenville, South Carolina, if you are using that phrase in your website, you're more likely to show up for local searches like we showed. And we'll talk about local searches in one of our upcoming sessions. Now you also want to select keywords that are appropriate. And we get this occasionally. People say, well, look, I see that there are a lot of searches for Beyonce because she's a very popular singer. So I'm going to use the word Beyonce a lot on my website. Well, that may be good as maybe as an illustration once, if you're trying to illustrate some point about Beyonce's popularity in a blog post or an article that you're writing. But to just randomly put the word Beyonce throughout your website, number one, it's not going to work to get that ranking. It's not likely that your church website is ever going to rank very high for the keyword Beyonce, because there are other larger, higher ranking websites that are going to be putting that. So kind of get that out of your mind. You want to be thinking about appropriate, and going back to what we were talking about in being relevant, you just don't want to throw in popular keywords with the hope that you'll be found on Google, and then maybe people will ignore the keywords when they're actually reading your articles. It just doesn't work. Always keep going back to being relevant and making good quality content, and we'll talk about that in one of our later sessions. And also, you want to be thinking about clear intent. So the best way to illustrate this, and here we go, we're going to go back to our Google example. Let's say I am a church in Charlotte, and I'm going to change this. And you can do this too if you ever are interested in it. You can change the location of your search. So I'm going to change my search to Charlotte, North Carolina. So there we are, Charlotte, North Carolina. So now let's say I do a search for Baptist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Google knows that's a local search. They're giving us a lot of good examples. Here's our local results right here. But let's say we wanted to rank for the keyword Charlotte Church. That's an obvious one. So I put in Charlotte Church because I am a pastor of a church in Charlotte. But look at the results. So we can see Charlotte Church is a singer, very popular. So if you are a church in Charlotte, ranking for this keyword may be very difficult, because it just so happens that there's a very popular singer who's got the exact same keyword. And when somebody does a search for Charlotte Church all over the world, they're not likely looking for your church, which happens to be in Charlotte. Hopefully that illustrates about having clear intent. Well, let's get back here. So we want to be focusing on keywords that are appropriate and have clear intent. So you want to make sure that you're actually testing these keywords out. Because if you're going to be using some of your time and energy to make sure these keywords are in your website, you want to make sure that you're getting the type of visitors that are going to appreciate what they find when they find it. And also, and this is very important also, you want to be focusing on the core values and the vision of your church organization. Now, when I say this, here's what I'm talking about here. if you're looking for just the keyword church, and that's not a bad thing to rank for. If you want to be ranking high in your local search and being found for the keyword church, that's fine. But you want to be thinking about what it is that's the mission of your church. And when I say core values, each church is going to have different abilities and capabilities and ministries, and it's going to vary from church to church based on the people that are in the church and the pastor and what they have agreed on together as a group, what it is, who they are, and how they are going to function as a church, and the type of ministries that they are going to be going after. So when you are choosing keywords, and I'm going to show you some examples of core values and vision in a little bit here, you want to be searching for what's going to fit alongside and be very appropriate for the ministry mission that you have set forth for your community. Now, Marshall has some great content on ministry design training on figuring out the core values of your church, figuring out the vision of your church. And I really hope that if you are having any struggle with this concept or this idea, you might want to check out those sessions. They're very appropriate and valuable for this conversation. Now, when it comes to selecting keywords, you really need to get in the heads of the searchers. Now, I have a picture. You may or may not recognize this, but there's a game show called Family Feud. It started back in the 70s, I believe. That was Richard Dawkins. The whole gist of Family Feud, if you don't know what it's about, you have contestants, these teams come together and they are competing. So they're up at the stand and Richard Dawkins is he's talking about, to just give you an idea of how it works, they do a survey with a large group of people and give them a topic, like what type of food would you take on a picnic? Something like that. And the people that are answering the survey will give all types of answers, like watermelon and peanut butter sandwiches or hot dogs, what have you. So the people that are competing are actually not trying to be creative at all. And this is the thing that is really amazing to me about the concept of this show. Usually we applaud creativity and out-of-the-box thinking, but the whole concept of this show is to think like everybody else thinks. And this is, when you are thinking about Family Feud, if you want to win this game, you have to answer the question that it was most popular or most used by the people in the survey. So going back to our idea of what would you take on a picnic, what type of food, you probably would not say leg of lamb. Most people would not take that on a picnic. Now, it may be creative, and you may like lamb, but it's not going to win in this case. So when we're talking about web searches, you need to be thinking like the people that need what you have. So, and this can be very difficult. Chip and Dan Heath, in their book Made to Stick, they call it the curse of knowledge, because you know all the things that go on in your church and you know what it is you're talking about. You assume everybody else understands and knows what you're talking about because you have studied the Bible. You've been to seminary. You understand doctrine. You understand scriptural references. Because of that, Chip and Dan Heath would say you have the curse of knowledge. Because you know all of this, it's difficult for you to be in the mindset or the thinking of somebody who does not have that information and knowledge and training. So this can be a very difficult task for you to figure out what it is that people are actually searching for. And luckily, Google has provided with us a tool that we can figure out whether or not keywords are actually popular or not. It's called the keyword planning tool. So I'm going to give this as an assignment if you want to take it as such, but the keyword planning tool is a very valuable tool. We will be using the keyword planner tool in later sessions, especially when talking about AdWords, but it's going to be a very eye-opening and enlightening exercise. So what you need to do to get to the keyword planner tool, you actually have to be registered with a Google account. So if you go to Google and sign up, you can go to, let me show you here. We're going to go back to our browser. Here we are at Charlotte Church, and we would go to a website here. Once you have registered for your Google account, and what I would recommend is that you set up a Google account with a generic email. You need an email to do it. Now you can get Google to give you an email, a Gmail account. You can see here on the right, I have made, just for the purposes of demonstration, I've made ministrydesigner@gmail.com. Now you can send me an email at that link, but I'm not going to be using it for my email. I'm using it primarily just as a demo for this. So if you want to send me an email, that's not the link to do it. But ministrydesigner@gmail.com, I just made that up with a Google account, a Gmail account. And once you make a Gmail account, you can use your church email if you'd like. The reason I mentioned that you should be using a generic account is when you're doing keyword research and doing ads and things like that, it can quickly become a bigger project than one person can handle. So what I would recommend is that you are using a generic account that multiple people in your church would be able to use to log into AdWords, for example. So that would be, you could use also that same Gmail account for YouTube if posting videos on YouTube. So just a heads up, we're going to be doing that on later sessions. So your homework assignment for today is number one, to get yourself a Gmail account. If you need any help with that, I may be able to post you some resources in the resource section here. So let me know if that's something that you'll need help with. But once you have your Gmail account, you want to go to this site, adwords.google.com. And that'll take us right over here to the keyword planning tool. And this is the Google AdWords section. So we're going to become more familiar with this in later sessions where we talk a little bit about setting up an AdWords account and doing a simple AdWords campaign. But we want to go to Tools and Analytics and come down here to Keyword Planner. Now, what Google is doing here, this tool was set up primarily for people that are going to be doing AdWords, but you can also use this to get an idea which keywords people are looking for, because Google's actually going to tell you how many searches per month for specific keywords, which is really fascinating. So I'm just going to do a search for keywords and ad group ideas. And let's say we're just going to do church and see what that gives us. And then we're going to say, I'm not going to pick on Charlotte anymore, especially since Charlotte Church, we know that's not going to give us the type of result we're looking for. We're going to say Denver Church. All right. Yeah, let's use Denver Church. There we go. And this will give us an idea of the types of results we can get. And let's do and if you're in a Denver Baptist Church, consider this free market research right here. So we're going to do these just to give you an idea of the types of things that we're searching for. So we got those in. We're going to go down here to get ideas. And Google's going to give us some ad group ideas. And we're not going to look at those right now. We'll look at those later. But we're just going to get over here to keyword ideas. Now, these are the terms that we put in. And Google is telling us that in our search term, I think we left it at the global target. So this is basically United States and the English-speaking world. 60,000 plus searches every month for the term church. Denver Church, 170 searches per month. Denver Baptist Church. Now this is really interesting to me because the longer tail keyword actually has more searches. These are the types of things that you want to be looking for. So if you were putting Denver Church in everything that you did, in this particular case, if you're a Denver Baptist Church in Denver, the keyword Denver Baptist Church is going to have more people searching for it. So you might want to use those phrases. For example, you might have a page on your website that says if you're looking for a Baptist church in Denver or a Denver Baptist church, you might want to consider our church because we have blah, 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 blah. So that will give you an idea of ways that you can start incorporating these. Now, right below that, you can see here are some other suggestions. And this is interesting. Let me go back up here to show you another one of the aspects I meant to mention. Competition. Competition is meaning how many people are competing for this particular keyword with AdWords campaigns. And you can see very low. Not a lot of people looking for church. Denver Church, high, which is interesting to me. More people are trying to compete for Denver Church than Denver Baptist Church, which is very low. So as far as an AdWords campaign, it may be easier to rank. If you want to look in their competition, it may be easier to rank for keywords that are marked as low competition. So looking down below here under keywords by relevance, you can see these are suggestions by Google, and just thumbing through here, looking at some of these ideas, these may give you some examples, like for example churches. 33,000 searches for churches. Now, putting yourself, going back to the Family Feud idea, putting yourself in the mind of the searcher, if somebody's looking for churches, they may be looking for a local church, maybe not. Maybe they might be looking for churches as far as architecture. It's a little bit confusing there on what they were looking for. Southern Baptist churches, we can see that there's a lot of monthly search for that. Now we will go back in later sessions and we'll show you how to do more targeted demographic searching for specific keywords in your area. Now I talked a little bit about core values, and this is where I want to bring in some ideas for you to consider when you're putting together some keywords for your ministry. You may decide you don't want to just I think it's good to rank for keywords like church or churches or your local community name church. I think that's a great idea. But you want to be going back to our theme of relevance. What is it that's important to the people that are in your community? What is it that they are looking for? And does it fit with the core values and vision of your church? So I have done a few searches here earlier. I just have some tabs open here. So I put this in. I put in a key phrase. I need somebody to talk to. Interesting that average monthly searches for that phrase, 90 searches, very low competition. And it's amazing to me. Look at all the people that are looking on this, and Google is offering some other relevant keyword phrases. I need someone to talk to. And that's just slightly different from I need somebody, I need someone. And this is interesting, just that one word change. 3,600 people a month are looking for someone to talk to rather than somebody to talk to. This should give you an idea of how many people are searching for these. And you can see these are all variations on the same theme. So what this tells me is there are a lot of people possibly in your community that need somebody to talk to. About what, we don't really know for sure. That's kind of ambiguous. But let's go look at some of these other phrases here. Life is hopeless. 70 people a month type into Google, life is hopeless. And this is interesting, looking at some of the keywords that Google has suggested and how many people are searching. What to do when you feel suicidal, 170 a month searches. Feeling hopeless about life, 50. I hope this has given you some ideas on ways that you can be relevant to your community and align them with core values that you have in your church or organization. And when you're thinking about keywords, whether it's a shorter keyword or a long tail keyword, you want to check it out and see what it is that people are actually looking for. And going back to aligning your core values and your ministries of your church with the people in your area that have a need. So let's go look at a couple more just for some ideas. How can I be forgiven was a term. And look at all of the things that people are searching for. This is astounding. People searching for prayer for forgiveness. Amazing. How many people a month are looking? This to me is pretty astounding. And let's see, we're back here, but let me leave it right on this one. Your other assignment, other than getting your Gmail account and checking out some keywords, I want you to think about what are some of the keywords that you can start using in your online communications to start to attract and meet the needs of people right in your local community. So we're going to wrap that up for today. I hope you had a chance to learn a little bit about the basics of SEO in a way that is understandable. If you have questions or comments, by all means, put them in the comment section below. I will try to answer any comments. And we probably won't be getting into really technical search engine optimization because it's a little bit beyond the scope of this particular group. But we'll try to answer any questions that we have and see if we can get you going on that. So I hope that was helpful. Check in for the next session and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.